Back in the day, video games were simple, black and white pixels on a television screen. Today, they're much more complex and sophisticated. From Nintendo to Sega Genesis and Sony PlayStation, video games utilize cutting-edge technology to provide fast-paced entertainment. However, there's more to their backstory than what we see in arcades and on our computer screens. Stay tuned to the end of this video to discover how video games are made. Step 1. Deciding the game design. Of course, the magic behind video games is the thrilling world building, intriguing characters, and fascinating graphics. Design is the central aspect of creating video games. Typically, it takes a team of skilled game designers, computer programmers, artists, and writers to design the game. Now, it's a well-known fact that creating a video game is rarely a step-by-step process. So, a variety of tasks will need to be accomplished during the game design phase, such as determining the type and objective of the video game. Generally, video games fall within 6 genres, including simulations, fighting, strategy, shooting, adventure, and of course the fan favorite, run, jump, and avoid, or platforming. Depending on the intended genre, the development phase will also define the game's action. For example, an arcade game must have short-term and immediate action. On the other hand, a home version of video games includes different skill levels that'll keep the player engaged for much longer. Lastly, a video game's handheld version is simplified to be played as a miniature. Step 2. Creating the story. Every video game you've ever played came about from brainstorming ideas. Typically, the writing team generates a video game story complete with an enthralling plot, setting, and memorable characters. Creating a story makes the game purposeful and tremendously enjoyable for the players. Often, the inspiration is derived from mainstream books or movies. Once the story is transferred to storyboards, the preliminary drawings are also added next to them. Once the writing part is out of the way, it's time to capture the action with art. Step 3. Drawing the story. After the type of story of the game has been carefully outlined on the storyboards, the next stage is to determine the format of the game. The format is the most critical part of the game because it's what the players see while playing the game. There are numerous formats that a game developer might adhere to, including, but not limited to, the platform, top-down scrolling, isometric, 3-dimensional, and text. Let's take a look at each format for a better understanding. Platform games are video games that feature a side view of the player's character. Moving on, top-down games provide a bird's eye view of the characters and are usually used for war games. The isometric format is a top-down game using perspective tricks to give the strange illusion of 3D. Similarly, true 3D games represent the future of video game formats, with the introduction of CDs and DVDs. Lastly, text games are only used for interactive fiction as they tend to have minimal graphics and are only used for interactive fiction. In general, the manufacturer may choose to use one or more of these formats to attract gamers. At this stage, the artists will add the drawings to storyboards after determining the game format, including character descriptions and arrows depicting how the characters will move during the game. Now, the final pictures can be created in 2 ways. Either an artist can render it by creating converted graphics, which are images drawn by the artist using a computer, or the developers can generate more lifelike images by filming the action with an actor and then electronically digitizing all the images. The artist will also use converted and digitized images to create a background. Interestingly, the background may seem cohesive to the viewer, but in reality, it's just a collage of many different images. Step 4. Recording dialogue and sound effects. One of the best parts of a good video game is the catchy dialogue and the incredible sound effects. Video game developers record sound effects and dialogue in a sound studio using various high-tech audio techniques. Once all the sounds have been recorded on digital audio tape, or DAT, they are computerized by a synthesizer, a computer that alters and translates sound into data. Okay, so now that the preliminary design elements have been determined, it's time to program them all into a game code. Step 5. Writing the program. The next step is programming or coding. The developer can use a variety of programming languages, such as C++, Java, or Visual Basic for this purpose. A team of programmers produces a code, each working on a different game phase. The seemingly simple process can take up to 7 months to produce. So, to speed up the coding process, programmers will often modify previously developed algorithms to adapt to the new game. Step 6. Testing. Like any other product, video games also require a stringent testing phase of game development that'll reveal any design bugs and programming problems. Now, the testing can be accomplished in several ways. For example, the programmers will run the game to discover any fundamental issues. Additionally, professional playtesters are brought in to help them. Besides finding any lingering errors in the game, playtesters also give criticism and suggestions to improve the game. The information from the testing phase is reviewed meticulously, and the game is appropriately tweaked until it's ready to be shared with the rest of the world. Step 7. Raw materials. It sounds cliche, but imagination is the essential raw material in creating a video game. However, it requires more than creativity to bring characters to life. It takes various raw materials to produce video games. This includes the materials that go into making the storage medium, such as floppy disks and CDs, as well as the accessories and the packaging of the video game. Plastic is also used to create the various accessory pieces that some video games require. Multiple fillers and colorants are incorporated into these plastics to modify their characteristics. Step 8. Burning the discs. After the programming and testing phase, the next step is to transfer the game code to a master compact disc. This disc acts as the template that'll be used to produce thousands of game copies on a large scale as needed. Step 9. Creating a metal inverse copy. A process known as electroforming makes a metal inverse copy of the master disc. The metal is deposited on the master disc surface with the help of an electrical current. Similarly, this inverse copy is then used to make multiple metal masters, which are in turn used to create multiple inverse stamping copies. The stamping copies will be placed in a die in an injection molding machine to mass produce the plastic compact discs. This machine consists of polycarbonate pellets placed in a hopper and drawn through a long screw device. The plastic becomes molten while it is drawn. After that, it's injected onto the die with the stamping copy. Next, pressure is applied for a few moments, and then the disc is allowed to cool. As it cools down, the plastic hardens until it forms the same unique pattern of pits as the master copy. It's inspected for flaws after being released from the die, and the disc is rejected if any imperfections are found. Step 10. Labeling. The disc is transferred to a machine that will punch a hole in its center. Then it'll be coated in a thin layer of either aluminum or silver using a vacuum deposition technique. For extra protection, clear acrylic plastic is applied. Finally, the disc is transported to a silk screen assembly where a machine prints a label on it. Step 11. Packaging the game. In the last step, all the video game components are transferred to the packaging line. Each part of the game is carefully placed in a pre-printed cardboard box. This process may either be done manually or by automated machinery. The game boxes are then conveyed to a shrink-wrap machine so they can be sealed in thick plastic cases. The video games are now ready for shipment. That's all for today. Click on one of the 2 videos on your screen right now. We'll catch you guys in the next one.